but this is the definition of a shuja. And as journalists, have we done our part and in terms of changing the script? Because traditionally we've always known the shuja to be the freedom fighter, whereas we have athletes, we have young people who are coming up, maybe business people who are now we can look at as shujas for this country. Have we done our part, Clay, do you think, in terms of now changing that definition of a shuja, just not to look at the freedom fighter?
I think sometimes we expect so much from journalists. Okay, maybe it's expected. I mean, because in the whole morass, we are probably the best. But I mean, ever since the Act came into being, and also here is a case where we live in a country where it's sometimes very difficult to define, because most of the time we actually worship thieves in this country. And
shouldn't we be changing that?
Yeah, that, I mean, that's what because that's narrative, because it's very difficult. I mean, for like yesterday, we're seeing some of the athletes who are being talked about, or some actually who we only talk about them when either they're dying or they're dead. You see, that's when we realize that actually this person needs to be there. But all this time, probably there will be somebody, and even the political class will come and start, they will come when these guys are dying or when these guys are dead. So the person, we tend to worship more the politicians than actually the real heroes. I don't know what probably the media can do probably to unearth these guys before. Maybe that's the only way we can change the narrative and start looking for all these people. But then when you do that, who's going to cover the politicians?
Must we cover the politicians?
I mean,
and this being the
I get your point. I understand. I mean, we need to strike a balance, but there's so many heroes, there's so many, and I think until we will get that as a society, the definition of a hero, who are our heroes as a society, then the media will not just, I mean, the media cannot just come and start redefining or start changing the narrative and all that. I think as a society, all of us need to come in and decide, like, okay, fine, who do we classify as a hero? Because I see so many people, like some of the people I would classify, I would consider as heroes, actually being kicked left, right, and center by actually people who I don't see anything that they've ever done for this country.
Okay.
You see.
Kadara?
Well, I think in terms of identifying heroes around us every day, you know, and there are those who the state will feed, you know, which is probably what happens during the celebrations, and we take our cue, unfortunately, from that. You know, I think as a society we need to be defining it ourselves outside the prism of who it is the government likes, you know, and I think we need to go beyond that. And that's why I was talking about the TJRC report and these 40,000 witness statements that are there. These are people who experienced history, who did some fairly remarkable things, you know. So if you go into that and you can then tease out the stories of the everyday people, you know, who do some fairly heroic things but are never recognized for it, you know, are never seen, you know, for what they do, what they endure, and the contributions that they make to having us where we are as a country. You know, so I think we need to go beyond simply, you know, I mean, if we wanted a definition, we've got one in law. That's you know, in the Heroes Act that was passed, I think, in 2013. You know, it defines, but that is really for the purposes of state. You know, who they will honor, who they'll give awards to, etc. You know, but we need to go beyond that. So it's not defined by the state. And in fact, we should be at a position where we are asking, how come certain people aren't getting this recognition? You know, and putting that pressure on the state so it conforms to what we as a society want, not the other way, society conforming to the heroes who are sort of pointed out to us by the state.
By the state, all right.
I think, yeah, just to add on to what Gadara has said, I think media, you know, has a critical role there by highlighting some of those heroes that, you know, might not be the state heroes but are public heroes because of some of the things that they have done. I was looking, I think yesterday on social media, there was something that was trending about this nurse who stayed in the ambulance.
Yeah,
with
that young man.
With
Madaga.
Yeah, with Madaga, for the hours that he was in the ambulance, and that is somebody worth celebrating.
Yes.
And there are many other people like that. Now, when the media then highlights some of these things, it it has the power of influencing, that public opinion and redefining who the shujas of the day.
And let's not forget that lots of these people who turn out to be heroes in later life at the moment are really not friends of government.
Yes.
In most cases.
Yeah.